Summer rain pelted against the windows of Merritt Construction's headquarters as Broderick Merritt paced anxiously in his corner office. At 48, Broderick had built his company from nothing into the third-largest commercial construction firm in Seattle, but recent setbacks threatened everything. The Cascade Point project, a $120 million commercial development, was slipping away, and with it possibly the future of his company. Across town, August Blackwood stared at the resignation letter on his desk. At 35, he'd spent 7 years at Westridge Capital, rising to become their youngest senior investment director. His specialty, rescuing failing businesses, had earned him the nickname the Resurrector among industry insiders. August's methods were unconventional but effective. Immersive, hands-on intervention rather than distant consulting. "You're really leaving?" Jackson Torres asked from the doorway. His tie loosened after their fourth consecutive late night. As August's deputy, Jackson had witnessed firsthand his mentor's growing dissatisfaction. 7 years is enough, Jackson. The work's become formulaic. Parachute in, identify inefficiencies, implement standardized solutions, move on. The challenges stopped being challenging. August ran his hand through his dark hair, still damp from the rain. "I need something different. This has nothing to do with Vivian's father calling you yesterday." August's jaw tightened. Vivian Merritt had been his wife for 3 years. Their meeting had been pure coincidence, a charity gala where they'd been seated at adjacent tables. Their connection had been immediate, intense. A whirlwind romance followed by a small wedding at her family's estate on Bainbridge Island. "Broderick wouldn't call me directly if it wasn't serious," August admitted. "Merritt Construction is facing collapse. They've lost 3 major bids in 6 months. And you're going to save your father-in-law's company." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "The same man who called your methods reckless and unsustainable at your wedding reception? I'm going to save my wife's family legacy," August corrected. "Besides, Broderick didn't call to ask for help. Vivian did." 3 hours later, August sat in the Merritt living room, watching his father-in-law's face redden with each passing minute. Vivian sat beside August, her hand resting protectively on his knee. "Absolutely not." Broderick slammed his tumbler of bourbon on the mahogany side table. "We don't need outside interference." "It's not interference, Dad," Vivian argued. "August is family. He specializes in exactly the kind of situation we're facing." Broderick scoffed. "Wall Street methods don't apply to real businesses, Vivian. We build things that last. We don't shuffle paper and call it value." "The Cascade Point project," August interjected quietly. "You're losing it to Blackwell developers." Broderick's eyes narrowed. "That's privileged information." "I'm good at my job," August replied simply. "Blackwell's bid is 8% lower than yours. They're cutting corners on materials, specifically the foundation reinforcement. I can prove it if you give me access to the bid specifications." A tense silence filled the room, broken only by the tick of the grandfather clock. Finally, Broderick spoke, his voice rough with reluctance. 1 month. As a consultant only. No executive authority. 3 months, August countered. As COO, with full operational control. If I haven't delivered measurable improvements by then, I walk away. Broderick's eyes slid to his daughter, then back to August. "Vivian says you walked away from 7 figures at Westridge." "I did." "Why would you do that?" August leaned forward. "Because some things matter more than money. Family is one of them." Later that night, as August and Vivian drove home, she squeezed his hand across the center console. "Thank you for doing this. Dad would never admit it, but the company's in real trouble." "I know," August replied, eyes on the road. "But there's something else. Someone's been deliberately undermining Merritt from the inside. The bid leaks, the mysteriously failing equipment, the key employee departures. It's too coordinated to be coincidence." Vivian's grip tightened. "You think someone's sabotaging us?" "Who? I don't know yet. But finding out is now my top priority." What August couldn't see was the fleeting expression that crossed Vivian's face, something between guilt and calculation that disappeared as quickly as it had formed. Chapter 2. Reconstruction. "You've got some balls, Blackwood," Cooper Reynolds growled, dropping a stack of revised contracts on August's temporary desk. As Merritt Construction's head of operations for 15 years, Cooper had initially been the most resistant to August's arrival. 6 weeks in, he'd become August's strongest ally after witnessing the newcomer's tireless work ethic and innovative solutions. These subcontractor terms save us 14% without compromising quality. August replied, not looking up from his spreadsheets. If that requires balls, then I'm adequately equipped. Cooper barked a laugh. Broderick's still fuming about the project management software overhaul. Broderick can fume all he wants. The new system caught 3 critical scheduling conflicts in its first week. August finally looked up. How's morale on the Westlake project? Improving. Your daily site visits are making an impression. The crews aren't used to suits getting their boots dirty. August smiled slightly. I'm not a suit anymore, Cooper. Speaking of which, what have you heard from Damon Walsh? Cooper's expression darkened. Walsh hasn't returned my calls. 3 years as our lead architect, then suddenly ghosts us right before the Cascade Point rebid. Something stinks. Yes, it does. August pulled up a series of emails on his monitor. These communications between Walsh and someone using an encrypted email service. They start 3 days before he resigned. Cooper leaned in. How did you? Company email server. August cut him off. Everything sent on Merit devices belongs to Merit. Walsh should have used his personal account for corporate espionage. Espionage? That's a serious accusation. One I can prove. August handed Cooper a folder. Walsh is now working for Blackwell developers through a shell company. 3 other former Merit employees followed the same path. Cooper swore under his breath. Broderick needs to see this. Not yet, August cautioned. We need to understand who recruited them and why. This level of coordination suggests someone with intimate knowledge of Merit's operations. Someone on the inside. Later that evening, August worked alone in the office, the only light coming from his computer screen. The door opened, and Vivian entered, carrying a takeout bag. You missed dinner. Again. Her tone was light, but August caught the edge beneath it. Sorry. Trying to finish the revised bid for Cascade Point. He accepted the bag with a grateful smile. You're a lifesaver. Am I? Vivian perched on the edge of his desk. In the dim light, her beauty was striking. Honey blonde hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, her father's determined jaw softened by her mother's elegant features. Dad says you've been asking questions about our client relationships. Just trying to understand the business better. August unwrapped the sandwich, suddenly cautious. Including our relationship with Triad Holdings? Vivian asked, too casually. August set down the sandwich. Triad is Blackwell's primary investor. They've backed 3 projects that directly competed with Merit in the last year. All 3 went to Blackwell after last-minute changes to our bids. Maybe Blackwell is simply better at what they do. Maybe. Or maybe they have access to our confidential information. August watched her carefully. Do you know Clayton Blackwell personally? A barely perceptible pause. We've met at industry events. He's well-respected. He's ruthless, August corrected. And he's targeted Merit specifically. Vivian stood, smoothing her skirt. You sound paranoid, August. This isn't Wall Street with its corporate raiders and hostile takeovers. Construction is a straightforward business. Nothing about business is straightforward, Viv. You know that. She leaned down to kiss his cheek. Don't work too late. You're pushing yourself too hard. After she left, August pulled up the security footage from the building's parking garage. He watched as Vivian's car pulled out, and then stopped at the exit. A second car pulled alongside, a black Mercedes with tinted windows. The driver's window lowered, revealing a man whose face August couldn't quite make out. The conversation lasted less than a minute before both cars departed. August sat back, his mind racing. Something was very wrong, and the disturbing possibility that had been forming in his mind was becoming harder to ignore. The next morning, Broderick summoned August to his office. August found not only his father-in-law, but also the entire executive team waiting. Explain this. Broderick pushed a folder across his desk. Inside was a comprehensive analysis of Merit's operational efficiency improvements over the past 2 months, a 62% increase in project completion speed, a 47% reduction in material waste, and most significantly, an 86% improvement in successful bid rate. These are the changes you asked for, August said. We've restructured project management, renegotiated supplier contracts, and implemented modern tracking systems. The results speak for themselves. The board is impressed, said Veronica Patel, Merit's longest-serving board member. Projected quarterly profits are up 300% from last year. Broderick cleared his throat. The board has voted to offer you a permanent position. Executive Vice President of Operations. August felt a momentary surge of pride, quickly tempered by caution. That's generous. I need to review the details, of course. Of course, Broderick agreed, too readily. We can discuss terms this afternoon. In the meantime, I'd like you to join me for the Cascade Point client meeting. Later, as they drove to the meeting, Broderick was uncharacteristically talkative. Vivian mentioned you've been investigating some irregularities. Yes, August kept his eyes on the road. Someone's been passing confidential information to Blackwell developers. And you have evidence of this? Enough to establish a pattern. Broderick nodded slowly. Come to my house tonight. Bring whatever you've found. Perhaps it's time we addressed this, together. That evening, August arrived at the Merritt estate with a secure laptop containing his findings. He found Broderick in his study with an unexpected guest, Damon Walsh, the architect who had abandoned Merritt weeks earlier. August, Walsh nodded stiffly. Broderick thought it was time we cleared the air. Before August could respond, Vivian entered with drinks. Behind her was a tall, aristocratic man with silver-streaked hair. August recognized him immediately from photographs. Clayton Blackwell, founder and CEO of Blackwell Developers. Mr. Blackwood, Blackwell extended his hand with a politician's smile. I've heard a great deal about your interventions at Merritt Construction. August didn't take the offered hand. Funny. I've heard a great deal about your interest in Merritt's confidential information. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Broderick stepped forward. August, Clayton is here as my guest. And as a potential partner. Partner? August repeated incredulously. The man's been trying to destroy your company for months. Not destroy, Blackwell corrected smoothly. Acquire. There's a significant difference. Dad has decided to sell majority control to Blackwell developers, Vivian explained, not meeting August's eyes. It's a generous offer that includes leadership roles for key Merritt executives. Including you, Mr. Blackwood, Blackwell added. Your performance has been most impressive. We could use someone with your talents. August stared at Vivian, the pieces finally falling into place. How long? Her face remained impassive. How long what? How long have you been working with him? A flicker of emotion, regret, perhaps, crossed her face before disappearing. Business is business, August. You taught me that. And us? Was that business too? Before she could answer, Broderick interrupted. This merger has been in development for over a year, August. Vivian has been instrumental in bringing it to fruition. A year, August repeated. Before I left Westridge. Before you called me in to save the company. Your improvements dramatically increased Merritt's value, Blackwell noted. Hardly wasted effort. August turned to Vivian. You married me because of my reputation for turning companies around. You knew your father would eventually listen to his daughter's husband. I married you because I saw an opportunity, Vivian replied coolly. For both of us. This merger will make us wealthy beyond imagination. Us, August echoed. There's someone else, isn't there? All those late meetings, the unexplained absences. The study door opened once more, and a man entered. Tall, conventionally handsome, with the confident bearing of old money. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was a nightmare. August, Vivian said with mechanical politeness. This is Harrison Reed. Harrison is Clayton's VP of Business Development. And Vivian's fiancé, Harrison added with a smirk. Or he will be, once you're out of the picture. August felt as if the floor had dropped from beneath him. Fiancé. It was never personal, Vivian said, though her eyes suggested otherwise. Harrison and I have history. We were together before I met you. Before you targeted me. August corrected, his voice dangerously calm. Before I recognized your value, she countered. This deal benefits everyone, August. You've increased Merritt's worth tenfold. Your stock options alone will set you up for life. August looked around the room, at Broderick's calculating gaze, Harrison's smug satisfaction, Blackwell's predatory smile, and finally at Vivian's beautiful, treacherous face. Keep the options, he said quietly. Consider them my wedding gift. He walked out without another word, ignoring Vivian calling his name. In his car, he sat motionless for several minutes, processing the breathtaking scale of the betrayal. Then he started the engine and drove away from the Merritt estate for what he believed would be the last time. 3 days later, August Blackwood officially resigned from Merritt Construction. The press release cited personal reasons for his departure. The company announced its merger with Blackwell developers the following week, to much industry fanfare. Broderick Merritt was quoted praising the exciting new chapter for the company his grandfather had founded. What went unmentioned was the quiet exodus of key personnel that began immediately after August's departure. Cooper Reynolds resigned first, followed by 17 other senior staff, project managers, engineers, estimators, and site supervisors who had witnessed August's leadership and chosen loyalty to him over promises from the new ownership. In a downtown apartment that served as temporary headquarters, August looked at the assembled group. "I won't pretend this isn't personal," he told them. "But it's also business. And we're going to build something better than what we left behind." Cooper raised an eyebrow. "How exactly are we going to compete with a merged Blackwell Merritt without capital, contracts, or even a company name?" August smiled thinly. "We have something more valuable, knowledge. And I've just secured a meeting with someone who can provide everything else we need." "Who?" asked Veronica Patel, who had resigned from Merritt's board to join them. "Roland Sterling," August replied. The room fell silent. Roland Sterling was a legend in Seattle business circles, a reclusive billionaire who had built Sterling Enterprises into a development empire before a bitter rivalry with Clayton Blackwell had ended in Sterling's semi-retirement a decade earlier. "Sterling hates Blackwell with a passion," Cooper said slowly. "But he hasn't been involved in construction for years." "He's about to make an exception," August replied, "especially when he hears how we're going to destroy Blackwell and Merritt in one stroke." Chapter 3. Infiltration. Roland Sterling's waterfront mansion reflected its owner's personality, imposing yet understated, with spectacular views of Puget Sound. At 72, Sterling remained physically imposing, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to evaluate August's net worth as they shook hands. "So you're the Wall Street wunderkind who married into the Merritt family," Sterling observed, leading August to his study. "Only to be discarded when your usefulness ended." "That's one interpretation," August replied. "Is there another?" "Yes. I'm the man who's going to help you settle your score with Clayton Blackwell." Sterling's laugh was unexpected, a genuine bark of amusement. "Straight to business. I appreciate that." He gestured to a chair. "Tell me why I should care about your marital problems." For the next hour, August outlined his proposal, the formation of a new construction company backed by Sterling's capital and connections, leveraging the team August had assembled from Merritt's top talent. But that was just the beginning. Blackwell Merritt now holds contracts for 6 major developments, August explained. The jewel is Cascade Point, $120 million for Phase 1 alone. They won those contracts based on Merritt's reputation for quality and reliability. "Reputations that walked out the door with you and your team," Sterling noted. "Exactly. We'll establish Sterling Construction as a premium alternative. While they're distracted with integration challenges, we'll target their clients with better terms and the teams they already trust." Sterling studied August with new interest. "Poaching clients is standard business practice. Hardly the revenge you seem to be seeking." August leaned forward. "That's just Phase 1. I don't just want to compete with them. I want to replace them. Completely." "Now that," Sterling smiled, "sounds like a conversation worth having." 6 months passed in a blur of 18-hour days. Sterling Construction launched with minimal fanfare but maximum efficiency. With Roland's backing, they secured state-of-the-art facilities and equipment. Cooper Reynolds assembled construction crews from the best independent contractors. Veronica Patel leveraged her extensive network to arrange private meetings with developers who had concerns about the Blackwell-Merritt merger. August remained deliberately in the background, listed only as strategic advisor on company materials. His divorce from Vivian proceeded without contest. He wanted nothing from her or the Merritt fortune. The business press barely noted the dissolution of their marriage, focused instead on the game-changing merger between Blackwell and Merritt. On a rainy Tuesday morning, August sat in Roland Sterling's office, reviewing their progress. Westlake Tower and Brighton Commons, Roland noted with satisfaction. Both former Merritt projects, both now with Sterling Construction. Clayton must be furious. Blackwell is too arrogant to be worried yet, August replied. He thinks they're isolated incidents. But Cascade Point is different. It's personal to both Blackwell and Broderick. Roland smiled thinly, which is why I arranged a meeting with Triad Holdings next week. They're getting nervous about Blackwell Merritt's project delays. And Harrison Reed? Any progress there? My investigators confirmed your suspicions. Reed and Vivian have been involved for at least 2 years, well before your marriage. They were careful, but not careful enough. Hotel records, restaurant receipts, text messages recovered from a cloud backup. August nodded, his face expressionless. And the financial irregularities. Reed has been skimming from Blackwell's development funds for years. Small amounts, well hidden, but it adds up to millions. Clayton doesn't know yet. He will, August promised. The following week, August accompanied Roland to the Triad Holdings meeting. As they waited in the conference room, August reviewed the presentation one final time. The door opened, and Alexander Chun, Triad's managing director, entered with his executive team. Roland, Chun greeted Sterling warmly before turning to August with obvious curiosity. And you must be Mr. Blackwood. I've heard interesting things about you. All true, I'm sure. August replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Chun laughed. Let's see if you live up to your reputation. Cascade Point has become a concern for our investors. Blackwell Merit promised efficiencies that haven't materialized. Integration challenges are common in mergers, Roland observed. However, Sterling Construction has a different approach. August took over, presenting their alternative proposal for Cascade Point, a comprehensive plan that incorporated innovative materials, accelerated timelines, and significant cost savings. But the centerpiece was the team, led by Cooper Reynolds and staffed by the same project managers and engineers who had originally designed the development under Merit. The same people who created the project you believed in, August concluded. Now with better resources and without corporate politics hindering execution. Chun studied August for a long moment. Impressive, but switching primary contractors mid-development is unprecedented for us. So is partnering with Sterling Construction, Roland replied smoothly. Alexander, we both know Clayton Blackwell's reputation. He acquires, strips assets, and moves on. Is that who you want building your flagship development? The meeting continued for another hour, ending with handshakes but no firm commitment. As they left Triad's offices, Roland looked thoughtful. Chun is interested, but cautious. He'll want reassurances. He'll get them, August replied. But first, we need to address the Harrison Reed situation. It's time for Phase 2. 2 days later, Harrison Reed received an anonymous email containing bank records that documented his embezzlement from Blackwell developers. The message was simple: midnight. Westlake Park. Come alone, or these go to Clayton. Reed arrived at the deserted park 20 minutes early, visibly agitated. August watched from his car until Reed had checked every nearby shadow, then approached openly. Hello, Harrison. Reed spun around, his hand instinctively reaching inside his jacket. Blackwood, you sent that email. I did, August confirmed, stopping several feet away. Consider it a professional courtesy. Professional? Reed's laugh was brittle. This is blackmail. No, this is negotiation. The blackmail was when you and Vivian conspired to use my skills to increase Merit's value for your benefit. Reed's eyes narrowed. What do you want? Information. In exchange for my silence about your creative accounting. What information? Everything. The true state of Blackwell Merit finances. The real progress on Cascade Point. And most importantly, the exact nature of your arrangement with Vivian. Reed considered his options, visibly calculating his chances. Finally, he nodded. Fine. But not here. My car. August smiled. No. My terms, my location. He gestured to a nearby coffee shop, still open, brightly lit, with several late-night customers visible through the windows. Public. Safe. For both of us. 3 hours later, August had what he needed. Comprehensive details of Blackwell Merit's precarious finances, proof of corner cutting on the Cascade Point development, and confirmation that Vivian had orchestrated their entire relationship as part of a long-game strategy to position Merit for acquisition. She approached me first, Reed admitted, the words spilling out once he started talking. Said she needed someone inside Blackwell. We had history from college. She knew I could be persuaded. And the plan to bring me in? Reed grimaced. Her idea? She'd followed your career. Said you were exactly what Merit needed. Someone who could implement modern practices without threatening her father's ego. Someone who would work himself to exhaustion to prove his worth to his new family. While you fed information to Blackwell. While Vivian fed information to me, Reed corrected. I was just the messenger. This was her game from the start. She wanted out from under her father's thumb, and this was her exit strategy. August absorbed this, his face unreadable. What did she tell you about me? About our marriage? Reed hesitated, then shrugged. That you were a means to an end. Ambitious, brilliant, but ultimately disposable. August nodded once, as if confirming something to himself. Thank you for your honesty, Harrison. Here's mine. By this time tomorrow, copies of your financial records will be with Clayton Blackwell unless you do exactly as I instruct. Reed blanched. You said. I said I wanted information in exchange for my silence. I have the information. Now here's what happens next. Chapter 4, Deception. The Blackwell Merritt corporate retreat at Snoqualmie Lodge was Clayton Blackwell's attempt to forge unity between the merged companies. 200 employees gathered for 3 days of team-building exercises, strategy sessions, and forced camaraderie in the mountain resort. On the second evening, Broderick Merritt stood at the bar, watching his employees mingle with their Blackwell counterparts. The integration was proceeding slower than expected. Cultural differences, conflicting methodologies, and simple human resistance to change had created friction that even Blackwell's ruthless efficiency couldn't eliminate. Admiring your handiwork, Vivian appeared beside him, elegant in a black cocktail dress. Hardly, Broderick muttered. Half my team has jumped ship to Sterling, and the other half is looking for the exit. This wasn't the partnership we discussed. It's a transition period, Vivian replied smoothly. Once the Cascade Point project is complete, things will stabilize. If it's completed, Broderick countered. Triad Holdings has been unusually demanding about progress reports lately. Before Vivian could respond, Harrison Reed approached, his expression tight. We need to talk. Privately. Minutes later, the three were sequestered in Blackwell's suite. Reed paced nervously while Vivian and Broderick watched with growing concern. What's happened? Vivian demanded. August Blackwood happened, Reed replied grimly. He knows about us, Viv. About everything. That's impossible, Broderick interjected. The man's been a ghost since he left. He hasn't contested the divorce or made any claims against Merritt assets. He doesn't want money, Reed explained. He wants destruction. He's working with Roland Sterling. The name hung in the air like a curse. Broderick sank into a chair. Sterling. Of course. The old bastard would never miss a chance to undermine Clayton. It's worse than that, Reed continued. August knows about my financial arrangements. He's threatening to expose everything unless I feed him information about our operations. Jesus Christ, Harrison, Vivian hissed. You've been embezzling? From Clayton? Reed's face hardened. Don't play innocent, Vivian. You knew exactly what kind of man you were getting into bed with, literally and figuratively. Both of you, stop, Broderick ordered. What does Blackwood want specifically? Inside information on Cascade Point. Access to our client communications. Details about our cash flow problems. And what did you tell him? Vivian asked, eyes narrowed. Reed looked away. Everything he asked for. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, Broderick said coldly. And you've made a catastrophic one. What would you have done? Reed demanded. Blackwell would destroy me if he knew about the money. We'll handle Blackwell, Vivian said decisively. But first, we need to contain August. What exactly does he know? As Reed detailed his conversation with August, none of them noticed the small device beneath the coffee table, a high-end recording transmitter placed there hours earlier by one of the resort's maintenance staff, who had been generously paid for their cooperation. Miles away, August sat in Sterling Construction's situation room with Roland, Cooper, and Veronica, listening to every word. They're panicking, Cooper observed with satisfaction. As expected, August replied. Harrison was the weak link. Now we apply pressure to the others. Roland smiled thinly. Triad Holdings has officially requested a meeting with Blackwell Merritt and Sterling Construction. Joint presentation, competing proposals for Cascade Point. Alexander Chun is smarter than I gave him credit for, August noted. He's creating a bidding war. One we're positioned to win, Veronica added. Especially with what we now know about Blackwell Merritt's internal problems. Which brings us to Phase 3, August said, turning to a series of screens displaying financial projections. It's time to accelerate our timeline. The next morning, as Blackwell Merritt executives prepared to return from their retreat, financial news outlets reported an unexpected story. Sterling Enterprises had acquired a significant minority stake in Triad Holdings. Markets reacted immediately, Blackwell Merit stock dropped 8% on fears that their flagship Cascade Point project was in jeopardy. Clayton Blackwell was livid. Sterling blindsided us, he raged during an emergency board meeting. This changes the entire dynamic with Triad. It was a bold move, Broderick acknowledged. But not fatal. We still have the contracts, the permits, the relationships. Triad can't simply walk away. Unless they have cause, Harrison Reed said quietly. All eyes turned to him. The quality control issues on the North Foundation, if those became public. They won't, Blackwell snapped. Those reports are internal only. Vivian studied Reed with growing suspicion. Harrison, what exactly did you share with August Blackwood? The question hung in the air. Before Reed could answer, Blackwell's assistant interrupted with an urgent message. Alexander Chun was requesting an immediate meeting with both Blackwell and Broderick. 2 hours later, they sat across from Chun in Triad's conference room. The atmosphere was glacial. Gentlemen, Chun began without preamble. I've received disturbing information about Cascade Point. Specifically, the structural integrity of the North Foundation. Blackwell maintained his poker face. All our work meets or exceeds code requirements, Alexander. You know that. Do I? Chun pushed a folder across the table. These are copies of your own internal reports. They suggest otherwise. Broderick opened the folder, his expression darkening as he reviewed the documents. These are confidential materials. How did you obtain them? That's irrelevant, Chun replied coldly. What matters is whether they're accurate. They're preliminary assessments, Blackwell deflected. Taken out of context. Then you won't object to an independent structural review, Chun suggested. At your expense, of course. That would cause unnecessary delays, Broderick protested. More concerning than the delays this information might cause would be the delays from a structural failure, Chun countered. Gentlemen, Triad has invested $58 million in Cascade Point to date. We will not proceed without absolute confidence in its integrity. What exactly are you proposing? Blackwell asked, his voice dangerously calm. 2 options, Chun replied. Submit to a comprehensive independent review, or release us from our exclusivity agreement so we can consider alternatives. Such as Sterling Construction? Broderick asked bitterly. Chun smiled thinly. They have made an intriguing proposal. After Chun left, Blackwell slammed his fist on the table. This is corporate sabotage. Sterling and Blackwood are working together, feeding information to Triad. The question is how they obtained our internal reports, Broderick said. Those documents never left our secure servers. Both men turned to look at Harrison Reed, who shifted uncomfortably under their scrutiny. I didn't share those specific reports, Reed insisted. August only asked about financial information, not technical specifications. Then we have another leak, Vivian said from the doorway, having arrived moments earlier. Perhaps several. Blackwell's eyes narrowed. Find them. All of them. I want this contained before the Triad board meeting next week. Later that evening, as Reed drove home, his phone rang with an unlisted number. He answered on speaker. You set me up, he said without preamble. Triad knows about the foundation issues. Yes, August's voice was calm. Consider it a demonstration of my capabilities. Blackwell and Broderick suspect me now. If they find proof. They won't, August interrupted. Because you're going to help me with the next phase. Reed laughed bitterly. Why would I do that? I'm already compromised. Because I'm offering you immunity, August replied. Financial records erased, a clean slate, and a position with Sterling Construction after the dust settles. A long pause. You're lying. Maybe. But Clayton Blackwell won't be nearly as forgiving when he discovers the full extent of your creative accounting. $8 million, Harrison. That buys a lot of revenge. Another pause. What do you need me to do? Something very simple, August replied. Exactly what you've been doing all along. Betray your colleagues. Only this time, with purpose. Chapter 5, Escalation. The Cascade Point situation deteriorated rapidly. Triad Holdings commissioned an independent review that confirmed the structural concerns. Construction was halted pending a comprehensive engineering solution, a delay that would cost millions and potentially breach contractual deadlines. Clayton Blackwell called an emergency session with his executive team, Broderick, Vivian, and their legal counsel. The mood was apocalyptic. Triad is using this as leverage to renegotiate terms, their attorney explained. They're demanding a 20% reduction in the contract value and performance guarantees that would be nearly impossible to meet. Impossible is not an option, Blackwell declared. Find a solution. There is one possibility, Vivian suggested carefully. The Sterling construction proposal to Triad included an innovative foundation reinforcement system. If we could implement something similar. Absolutely not, Blackwell snapped. We will not adopt Sterling's methods. Pride is a luxury we can't afford, Clayton, Broderick argued. If Sterling has a viable solution, we should consider it. It's not pride, Blackwell countered. It's strategy. Once we start following Sterling's lead, we legitimize them as our equal. That changes the entire competitive dynamic. The debate continued without resolution until Harrison Reed cleared his throat. There might be another way. What if we could acquire the technology directly? Explain, Blackwell demanded. Sterling's chief engineer, Derek Zimmer, Reed said. He developed the reinforcement system. He's the only one who fully understands the implementation details. And, Vivian prompted. And he has a price, Reed finished. I have a contact who says Zimmer is unhappy with his compensation at Sterling. For the right offer, he might be persuaded to change allegiances. Blackwell considered this. Corporate espionage is a dangerous game, Harrison. More dangerous than losing Cascade Point. Reed countered. More dangerous than watching Sterling Construction replace us as the premier development firm in the Northwest. The following day, Derek Zimmer received a message requesting a discreet meeting to discuss a mutually beneficial opportunity. What Blackwell Merritt didn't know was that Zimmer had never existed before August created his credentials 3 months earlier. The innovative foundation system was standard technology with superficial modifications and impressive branding. They took the bait. August informed Roland as they monitored communications from their command center. Reed arranged a meeting with Zimmer tonight. And our actor is prepared? Roland asked. Fully briefed and ready to play his part, August confirmed. By tomorrow, Blackwell will think they've secured a game-changing advantage. While actually walking into a trap, Roland finished with satisfaction. Your capacity for strategic patience is remarkable, August. I learned from the best, Auguste replied. Vivian and Broderick taught me the value of the long game. I'm simply applying the lesson. 2 days later, Blackwell Merritt proudly announced a breakthrough solution for the Cascade Point Foundation issues, a proprietary reinforcement system that would ensure structural integrity while maintaining the project timeline. Triad Holdings expressed cautious optimism, agreeing to resume construction pending final engineering approval. Sterling Construction made no public comment on the announcement. Instead, August arranged a private dinner with Alexander Chen. Your competitors seem to have resolved their technical problems, Chen observed as they were seated in a private dining room overlooking Elliott Bay. So it appears, August replied noncommittally. Congratulations on the project's resumption. Chen studied him. You don't seem concerned. Should I be? Most people would, after losing a $120 million contract opportunity. August smiled slightly. Mr. Chen, in my experience, most business victories are temporary. It's the long-term relationships that endure. Philosophical for a man in your position, Chen noted. I would have expected more disappointment. Expectations can be deceiving. August signaled the waiter for wine. As Blackwell Merritt may soon discover. The cryptic comment hung between them as dinner progressed. They discussed other projects, market trends, Sterling Construction's impressive growth. It was only as dessert arrived that Chen returned to the subject. Broderick Merritt called me this morning, he revealed. He suggested that Sterling Construction might have legal exposure regarding certain proprietary technologies. August's expression didn't change. Did he elaborate? He implied that your foundation reinforcement system bears remarkable similarities to their breakthrough solution. Interesting theory, August replied, especially given the timing of their breakthrough. Chen set down his fork. You expected this. I anticipated it, Auguste corrected. There's a difference. And the difference is? Evidence, August said simply, producing a slim folder from his briefcase. This contains documentation of every communication between Harrison Reed and our fictional engineer, Derek Zimmer. Every meeting, every offer, every promise of proprietary information. Most importantly, it contains proof that what Blackwell Merritt is implementing at Cascade Point isn't an innovation. It's industrial espionage. Chen's eyes widened as he reviewed the materials. This is comprehensive. I believe in thorough preparation, August said. Mr. Chun, Triad Holdings now faces a difficult choice. Continue partnering with a company that attempted to steal technology, or reconsider a partnership with one that just demonstrated their competitors' ethical failings. You orchestrated this entire scenario, Chun realized. Created a fictional engineer, baited them into attempted espionage, and documented everything. All to discredit Blackwell Merit. I created an opportunity, August corrected. They chose to take it. Chun closed the folder. What exactly are you asking of Triad Holdings? Nothing you weren't already considering, August replied. A fair evaluation of which company truly deserves your business. The next morning, Triad Holdings announced an indefinite suspension of the Cascade Point project pending a comprehensive review of their development partnership. Blackwell Merit stock plummeted 22% in a single day. Industry analysts speculated about contractual penalties and potential litigation. In the chaos that followed, few noticed when 3 other major clients quietly began discussions with Sterling Construction. By the end of the week, Blackwell Merit had lost over 40% of its market value, and rumors of liquidity problems began circulating among industry insiders. Clayton Blackwell called an emergency board meeting to address the crisis. The boardroom was tense, divisions between former Blackwell and former Merit executives now openly visible. This is a coordinated attack, Blackwell insisted. August Blackwood and Roland Sterling are systematically undermining our company. Perhaps, agreed Broderick coldly. But they're succeeding because of vulnerabilities we created. The foundation issues were real. The attempted technology acquisition was real. We gave them the ammunition. Your son-in-law is behind this, Blackwell accused. Your daughter's ex-husband. Ex-husband because of your protege, Broderick countered, glaring at Harrison Reed, who sat uncomfortably at Blackwell's right hand. A man who has been suspiciously close to every crisis we've faced. Reed flushed. That's an unfounded accusation. Is it? Vivian interrupted, her voice razor-sharp. The Cascade Point specifications leak, the Triad Holdings meeting. You've been at the center of every disaster. This is absurd, Reed protested. Clayton, tell them. Enough, Blackwell cut him off. Accusations won't solve our immediate problem. We need liquidity to weather this storm. The banks are nervous, their CFO reported. They're asking for additional collateral on our existing lines of credit. I'll personally guarantee the loans, Blackwell decided. And Broderick will do the same. All eyes turned to Broderick, who sat silently for a long moment. No, he said finally. I won't risk my personal assets to protect this failed merger. The pronouncement landed like a bomb in the boardroom. Blackwell stared at his partner in disbelief. We had an agreement, Broderick. An agreement you've systematically violated, Broderick replied. This partnership was supposed to be equal. Instead, you've marginalized the Merit executives, ignored our expertise, and allowed your people, he glanced pointedly at Reed, to compromise our reputation. Dad, Vivian interjected, this isn't the time for. It's exactly the time, Broderick cut her off. I'm invoking the dissolution clause in our merger agreement. Merit Construction will separate from Blackwell Developers, effective immediately. Chaos erupted in the boardroom. Legal advisors frantically consulted contract terms, executives argued jurisdiction and asset allocation, and through it all, Clayton Blackwell sat in stunned silence, watching his empire begin to crumble. Outside the building, August Blackwood received a text message from an anonymous source inside the meeting. Dissolution invoked. Broderick moving to separate. Phase 3 complete. August murmured to himself. Right on schedule. Chapter 6, Revelation. The disintegration of Blackwell Merit dominated business news for weeks. What began as a strategic reassessment quickly devolved into open warfare between the once partnered firms. Broderick Merit, leveraging dissolution clauses in the merger agreement, moved to reclaim the Merit Construction name and assets. Clayton Blackwell countered with injunctions claiming contractual violations. In the midst of this corporate bloodletting, Sterling Construction thrived. With Roland's capital and connections, August's strategic vision, and a team of industry veterans, they secured contracts from former Blackwell Merit clients seeking stability. Their stock price tripled in 6 months, making August's equity stake worth tens of millions. On a rainy Friday evening, August worked alone in his office, reviewing plans for their newest acquisition, a waterfront development previously controlled by Blackwell. A soft knock interrupted his concentration. Still working at 8 on a Friday? Cooper Reynolds stood in the doorway, holding 2 glasses of scotch. The rest of us mere mortals are celebrating downstairs. August accepted the offered drink. Just finishing some details on the Harbor Point transfer. Another victory, Cooper noted, taking a seat. That's 4 major projects we've taken from Blackwell in as many months. Business is business, August replied, echoing Vivian's words from that fateful night. Cooper studied his boss carefully. Is it though? Because from where I'm sitting, this looks a lot like a personal crusade. August sipped his scotch. Does that concern you? Not professionally, Cooper assured him. What you've built here is remarkable. Sterling Construction is now the premier development firm in the Pacific Northwest. But personally, he hesitated. I wonder when enough will be enough. Before August could respond, his secure phone chimed with a message from a number he recognized immediately. Despite himself, his heart rate increased slightly. I need to take this, he said, gesturing to the door. After Cooper left, August opened the message. We need to talk. Privately. It's urgent. V. For several minutes, he stared at the screen, weighing possibilities. Finally, he replied with an address and a time. Tomorrow. Noon. Come alone. The following day, August waited at a secluded table in the back of a small cafe in Bellevue, far from the usual business districts where they might be recognized. Vivian arrived precisely at noon, elegant as ever, but with new tension lines around her eyes. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. Curiosity outweighed better judgment, August replied. What's so urgent? Vivian glanced around before leaning forward. Harrison Reed is stealing from the company. Broderick's company. Millions shifted through shell corporations, project funds diverted, supplier contracts manipulated for kickbacks. August's expression remained neutral. And this concerns me because he's using your methods, Vivian said. Financial techniques you implemented during your time with us. He studied everything you did and perverted it. Now he's bleeding Merit dry, and my father's too proud to see it. Again, why should I care? Your father fired me. You betrayed me. From where I sit, this seems like poetic justice. Vivian's composure slipped for an instant. Because innocent people will be hurt. 3,000 employees and their families depend on Merit Construction. They had nothing to do with what happened between us. August studied her, searching for signs of manipulation. What exactly are you asking me to do? Help me prove what Reed is doing before it's too late. You understand the systems, the vulnerabilities. You can trace what he's done. You have your own financial team, August pointed out. Use them. Reed has compromised them, Vivian countered. He's very thorough. Like someone else I know, August commented dryly. Vivian had the grace to look away. I deserve that. But this isn't about me or even my father. It's about stopping Reed before he destroys everything. August considered her request, weighing angles and potential traps. Finally, he nodded once. Send me the financial records from the last 6 months. Server access logs, transaction approval chains, everything. I'll see what I can find. Thank you. Vivian's relief seemed genuine. I'll have it to you by tonight. As she stood to leave, August caught her wrist. Vivian, if this is another manipulation. It's not, she interrupted, and for a brief moment, he glimpsed the woman he'd thought he married. Whatever you believe about me, I never wanted this level of destruction. After she left, August remained at the table, turning his coffee cup slowly. His phone buzzed with a text from Roland. Meeting confirmed with Chun. Triad is ready to proceed. August sent a brief acknowledgement, his mind racing with new possibilities. The carefully constructed revenge plan he'd been executing was approaching its climax. Blackwell was on the verge of financial collapse. Merit was struggling to rebuild, and Harrison Reed was about to be exposed as the architect of both companies' demise. But Vivian's unexpected request had introduced a new variable. If Reed truly was embezzling from Merit Construction, exposing him would actually help Broderick recover. Was that something August wanted? Or would it be more satisfying to let Reed complete the destruction that August had initiated? 3 days later, August had his answer. The financial records Vivian provided revealed a sophisticated theft operation, one that went far beyond what August had suspected. Reed hadn't just learned from August's legitimate financial restructuring. He'd created a parallel system of fraud that had siphoned over $22 million from Merit Construction in just 6 months. More disturbing was what the server logs revealed. Vivian had accessed the same systems, viewed the same irregularities on multiple occasions before coming to August. She had known about Reed's activities for months and done nothing until now. August compiled his findings into a comprehensive report, including a forensic timeline of both Reed's thefts and Vivian's knowledge of them. Then he arranged another meeting, not with Vivian, but with Broderick Merritt. They met in a private room at the Columbia Tower Club, neutral territory where neither would be at a disadvantage. Broderick looked older than August remembered, the stress of recent months evident in new gray at his temples and deeper lines around his eyes. "I assumed you were behind my recent troubles," Broderick said without preamble as they sat down. Sterling Construction's meteoric rise coincided too perfectly with Blackwell Merritt's collapse. A reasonable assumption, August acknowledged, though not entirely accurate. "Oh." August placed a flash drive on the table between them. "This contains evidence of systemic financial fraud within Merritt Construction, primarily orchestrated by Harrison Reed, with varying degrees of awareness from others in your organization." Broderick eyed the drive suspiciously. "Why would you give this to me?" "Because despite everything, I respect what you built," August replied honestly. "Merritt Construction was a legacy worth preserving. Reed is destroying that legacy for personal gain. And you suddenly care about my company's welfare?" "I care about justice," August corrected. "Reed deserves consequences for his actions. All of his actions." Broderick's eyes narrowed. "Including his relationship with Vivian?" "Including everything he did, with or without her knowledge or participation." A heavy silence fell between them. Finally, Broderick asked, "Does she know you're meeting with me?" "No," August said, "and she won't learn it from me." Broderick nodded slowly, then reached for the flash drive. "I never wanted to fire you, August. That was Clayton's condition for the merger. He saw you as a threat." "He was right," August replied simply. "Yes, he was." Broderick pocketed the drive. "What happens now? Between Sterling Construction and what remains of Merritt?" "That depends on what you do with that information," August said, standing to leave. "But I suggest you move quickly. Reed's embezzlement has accelerated in recent weeks. You don't have much time." 1 week later, Harrison Reed was arrested on charges of embezzlement, wire fraud, and money laundering. The FBI investigation, apparently ongoing for months, had been supplied with comprehensive financial evidence from an anonymous source. Reed was taken into custody at Merritt Construction headquarters during a board meeting, a very public humiliation that made front-page news. Clayton Blackwell distanced himself immediately, claiming no knowledge of his former protégé's criminal activities. Broderick Merritt issued a statement confirming full cooperation with authorities and promising restitution to affected projects. Vivian Merritt was conspicuously absent from all company communications. That evening, August found her waiting in the parking garage beside his car. She looked exhausted, all pretense of composure abandoned. "You went to my father instead of me," she said. "It wasn't a question." "Yes," August confirmed, making no move to approach her. "Why?" "Because you knew what Reed was doing months ago and did nothing. The logs don't lie, Vivian. You watched him steal millions and stayed silent." She flinched but didn't deny it. "I thought I could control him, use his actions as leverage when the time was right." "Always the long game with you," August observed. "I learned from my mistakes," Vivian said quietly. "Reed was different from you. Weaker. Corruptible. I thought that made him safer. And now I've lost everything," she admitted. "My father knows I was complicit by silence. The FBI is questioning my involvement. Reed is promising to tell all about everyone he worked with. It's over." August studied the woman he had once loved, still beautiful, still calculating even in defeat. "What do you want from me, Vivian?" "Nothing," she replied, surprising him. "I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What it feels like to be betrayed by someone you trusted. To watch everything you built crumble because of someone else's actions." August unlocked his car. Empathy through experience. An expensive lesson. "The most valuable ones usually are," she said softly. As he moved to get into his car, she added, "Was any of it real, August? Between us?" He paused, one hand on the door. "Does it matter now?" "To me it does." After a long moment, He answered, yes. It was real for me. Every moment, every promise, every plan for our future. That's what made the betrayal so complete. He got into his car without looking back, but as he drove away, he caught a glimpse of her in his rearview mirror, a solitary figure standing motionless in the gathering darkness, watching him disappear. Chapter 7. Culmination. The dissolution of Blackwell Merritt created a power vacuum in the Seattle construction industry that Sterling Construction was perfectly positioned to fill. With August now publicly acknowledged as CEO, the company secured major contracts across the Pacific Northwest. Industry publications hailed the Blackwood Renaissance in construction innovation, while financial analysts praised Sterling Construction's remarkable growth trajectory. Clayton Blackwell, however, refused to accept defeat. Though his company had lost prestige and market share, he retained significant resources and even more significant pride. The rivalry between Blackwell and Sterling/Blackwood became legendary in business circles, a chess match between titans with regional development as the board. On a bright spring morning, August stood at the window of his expansive office, watching construction progress on Harbor Point, the waterfront development that had once been Blackwell's flagship project. Cooper Reynolds entered with their usual morning briefing. The East Tower foundation is complete, Cooper reported. We're 2 weeks ahead of schedule and 4% under budget. Good, August replied, turning from the window. And the Triad Holdings proposal? Final revisions are ready for your review. Alexander Chun has hinted they're prepared to commit to all 3 phases immediately if the terms are right. August nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. Schedule the presentation for next week. I want Roland there as well. This will be our largest single contract to date. Cooper hesitated. There's something else. Clayton Blackwell has requested a meeting. Private. No lawyers, no publicity. August raised an eyebrow. Did he indicate the purpose? Only that it concerns matters of mutual interest and potential resolution. Interesting timing, August mused. The Harbor Point completion ceremony is next month. Blackwell losing that project was the beginning of his downfall. You think he's finally ready to surrender? Cooper asked. Clayton Blackwell doesn't surrender, August replied. But he may be ready to negotiate. Set it up. Neutral location, standard security protocols. They met at Roland Sterling's private club, a discreet establishment where the city's power brokers could interact away from public scrutiny. Blackwell arrived precisely on time, still imposing despite recent setbacks. The 2 men sized each other up across a small table in a corner alcove. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Blackwell began, his voice carefully neutral. Professional courtesy, August replied. What's on your mind, Clayton? Blackwell took a measured breath. I'll be direct. The constant escalation between our companies is becoming mutually destructive. I'm proposing a truce. August smiled thinly. Interesting choice of words. Mutually destructive suggests both parties are suffering equally. From my perspective, Sterling Construction is thriving while Blackwell Developers is fighting for survival. A flash of anger crossed Blackwell's face before he controlled it. Pride goeth before destruction, Mr. Blackwood. You've won impressive victories, but this war is far from over. Is that a threat? An observation, Blackwell corrected. And the preface to a business proposal. I want to buy Sterling Construction. August stared at him for a moment before laughing outright. You can't be serious. Completely serious, Blackwell countered. Name your price. Whatever valuation you consider fair, plus a premium for your personal inconvenience. My personal inconvenience, August repeated. An interesting euphemism for orchestrating my firing and attempting to destroy my reputation. Business decisions, Blackwell dismissed. Nothing personal. Everything is personal, August corrected. You supported Harrison Reed's relationship with my wife. You participated in a conspiracy to exploit my skills while planning my removal. You threatened to blacklist me in the industry if I contested the divorce settlement. Ancient history, Blackwell waved a hand. We're businessmen. Let's focus on the present opportunity. August leaned forward. Here's the present reality, Clayton. Sterling Construction isn't for sale at any price. Especially not to you. As for a truce, that became impossible the moment you decided I was disposable. You're making a mistake, Blackwell warned. I still have resources, connections. The banks. The banks are losing confidence in you daily, August interrupted. Your company has lost 63% of its value since the merger collapsed. Your major projects have either stalled or been acquired by competitors. Your reputation for ruthless efficiency has been replaced by one for desperate mismanagement. Blackwell's composure slipped. This vendetta you're pursuing, it won't bring her back, you know. Vivian made her choice. This isn't about Vivian, August replied calmly. It hasn't been for a long time. This is about accountability. You and Broderick treated people as disposable resources. Now you're experiencing the consequences. So that's your final word? No deal, no truce, just continued warfare until one of us is destroyed. August stood. Not one of us, Clayton. Just you. As August walked away, Blackwell called after him. You've made an enemy for life, Blackwood. August paused, looking back. No, Clayton. I've made you irrelevant. That's far worse. The following week brought another unexpected meeting request, this one from Vivian Merritt. Against Roland's advice, August agreed to see her, choosing a public restaurant for the encounter. She arrived looking composed but diminished somehow, the confident arrogance replaced by a wary caution. After they ordered, she came directly to the point. I'm leaving Seattle, she announced. Starting over somewhere else. Wise decision, August replied. Recent events have made your position here complicated. That's one word for it. She agreed with a hint of her old sardonic humor. Federal investigations, frozen assets, social exile. It's been an educational experience. I imagine so. Vivian studied him. You don't seem particularly satisfied by my downfall. Should I be? Most men in your position would, she pointed out. You've systematically dismantled everything I valued. My family's company, my social standing, my future security. Isn't that what you wanted? August considered the question seriously. What I wanted was justice. Consequences proportional to actions. You, your father, Blackwell, Reed, you all made choices that hurt people. Now you're facing the results of those choices. Very philosophical, Vivian noted. But we both know this was personal, August. You wanted revenge. Initially, yes, he admitted. But revenge is ultimately empty. What I've built with Sterling Construction, that has meaning beyond retribution. Vivian nodded slowly. I underestimated you. We all did. I thought I understood your ambition, but I misread its nature. You never wanted power for its own sake. No, August agreed. I wanted to build something valuable, something that would last. Which you've done, she acknowledged. While we destroyed what we had. They ate in silence for several minutes. Finally, Vivian spoke again. There's something else. Something you should know before I leave. August waited, expectant. Reed wasn't just embezzling from Merritt, she said quietly. He was working with someone inside Sterling Construction. Passing information, coordinating market moves. August's expression hardened. If this is another manipulation. It's not, she interrupted. I have proof. She passed a flash drive across the table. Email exchanges, meeting records, financial transfers. All linking Reed to someone with inside access to Sterling's operations. Why give this to me now? Vivian met his gaze directly. Because despite everything, I owe you this much. And because whoever it is, they're still there, still active. They'll betray you just as Reed betrayed my father. August pocketed the drive. Thank you. She nodded once, then gathered her purse to leave. Goodbye, August. I doubt we'll see each other again. Vivian, he called as she stood. For what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for, wherever you go next. A sad smile touched her lips. What I was looking for was always right in front of me. I just didn't recognize its value until it was gone. That night, August reviewed the files Vivian had provided. The evidence was conclusive and devastating. Someone in Sterling Construction's upper management had been feeding information to Harrison Reed for months. Project details, client communications, financial strategies, all flowing steadily to their competitor. The source of the betrayal was even more shocking. Veronica Patel, the former Merit Board member who had joined Sterling at its founding. The woman August had trusted implicitly, who had helped build the company from nothing. I don't believe it, Roland said flatly when August presented the evidence the next morning. Veronica has been with us from the beginning. She resigned from Merit's board to join us. After cultivating relationships with everyone who would later become key to our success, August pointed out. She positioned herself perfectly, trusted by both sides, privy to all confidential information. But why? Cooper asked, reviewing the email exchanges. What was her endgame? Control, August replied. Veronica never wanted to destroy either company. She wanted to manipulate both, creating dependencies that would ultimately make her indispensable. Classic power play, Roland acknowledged reluctantly. And we never suspected because she appeared to be burning bridges with Merritt to join us. While maintaining back-channel communications the entire time, August confirmed. The question is, what do we do now? The answer came in the form of a carefully orchestrated confrontation. August called an executive strategy session with the entire leadership team, including Veronica. As the meeting progressed, he methodically presented findings from an anonymous source, revealing corporate espionage against Sterling Construction. Someone in this room has been feeding our confidential information to Harrison Reed and, through him, to our competitors, August announced, watching reactions around the table. We have comprehensive documentation, including email exchanges, meeting records, and financial transfers. Most executives registered shock or concern. Veronica's expression remained carefully neutral. These are serious allegations, August. What evidence supports them? Veronica Patel, August said quietly. You joined Sterling Construction after resigning from Merritt's board in a very public display of changing allegiances. You positioned yourself as my trusted advisor while systematically undermining everything we built. For a long moment, silence gripped the room. Then Veronica laughed, a cold, calculating sound that transformed her entire demeanor. Well played, August, she acknowledged. I underestimated your resourcefulness. Let me guess, Vivian provided the evidence? A final gift before her departure. The source is irrelevant, August replied. The evidence speaks for itself. Veronica glanced around the table, assessing her colleagues' reactions. Finding no allies, she straightened her shoulders. You built something remarkable here, August. Far more valuable than Merritt ever was, more innovative than Blackwell could imagine. I simply ensured I would have a place in its future, regardless of which side ultimately prevailed. By betraying both sides, Roland said coldly. By hedging my bets, Veronica corrected. Business isn't personal, gentlemen. It's about positioning oneself advantageously amid shifting powers. You're wrong, August countered. The best business is deeply personal. It's built on trust, integrity, and shared purpose. That's what you never understood, and why you'll never build anything truly valuable. Security personnel entered the room, and Veronica was escorted from the premises. Legal proceedings would follow, but the immediate threat to Sterling Construction had been neutralized. Later, as August and Roland reviewed the fallout, the older man shook his head ruefully. First Reed, then Veronica. Trust becomes more precious as it proves more rare. Not everyone betrays, August noted. Cooper has been loyal from the start. Most of our team has. True, Roland acknowledged. But the wounds from betrayal linger longer than the warmth from loyalty. A lesson I suspect you've learned too well. August smiled faintly. Experience is a thorough teacher. And an expensive one, Roland added. Speaking of expenses, Clayton Blackwell has missed his last 2 debt payments. The banks are circling. I know, August replied. I've instructed our acquisition team to prepare an offer for Blackwell's remaining viable assets. Roland raised an eyebrow. The final move in your chess game? Not quite, August said. There's one more piece to position. Chapter 8, Reconciliation. Broderick Merritt stared out the window of his substantially smaller office, watching clouds gather over Elliott Bay. At 63, he had expected to be preparing for a comfortable retirement, possibly with grandchildren visiting his estate on weekends. Instead, he faced the daunting task of rebuilding Merritt Construction from the wreckage of the failed merger and Harrison Reed's embezzlement. A knock at his door interrupted his brooding. Mr. Merritt? Your 2 o'clock is here. Broderick sighed. Send them in. He turned, expecting the bank representative scheduled to discuss restructuring options. Instead, he found August Blackwood standing in his doorway. Hello, Broderick. Shock gave way to wariness. August, this is unexpected. I imagined so, August agreed, entering without invitation. Your assistant was kind enough to adjust your schedule when I explained the sensitive nature of our discussion. And what is that nature exactly? Broderick asked, not offering a seat. August remained standing as well. I've acquired controlling interest in Blackwell Developers. The transaction closes next week. Broderick blinked, genuinely surprised. Clayton actually sold to you? After everything. Clayton had no choice, August replied. His creditors forced the sale. I simply ensured I was the buyer. Congratulations, Broderick said flatly. I assume you're here to gloat over your complete victory. First my company, then my former partner. Neither, August corrected. I'm here to discuss the future of Merit Construction. Broderick's eyes narrowed. My company is not for sale. I'm not looking to buy it, August replied calmly. I'm proposing a partnership. A partnership, Broderick repeated skeptically. With the man who systematically dismantled my merger and exposed my company's vulnerabilities? With the man who prevented your company from being hollowed out by fraud, August countered. And who has the resources to help rebuild what was lost? Broderick studied him for a long moment. Why would you help me now, after everything that's happened? Because Merit Construction deserves to survive, August said simply. 3 generations of honest work shouldn't end because of one generation's mistakes. My mistakes, you mean? Yours, mine, Vivian's. There's plenty of responsibility to go around, August acknowledged. But that's the past. I'm interested in the future. Despite himself, Broderick was intrigued. What exactly are you proposing? A strategic alliance, August explained. Sterling Construction focuses on commercial development. Merit specializes in residential and municipal projects. Together, we could offer comprehensive services across all sectors. While remaining separate companies, Broderick clarified. With separate leadership and distinct identities, August confirmed. But shared resources where it makes strategic sense. And my role in this arrangement? You remain president of Merit Construction with complete operational control. I provide capital investment and strategic support, but Merit stays Merit. Broderick moved to his desk, buying time to process the unexpected offer. This doesn't sound like the revenge most people would expect from a man in your position. August smiled slightly. I'm not most people. No, Broderick agreed. You're not. He studied August with new appreciation. You remind me of myself at your age, before I lost sight of what matters. Which is legacy, building something that outlasts you. Broderick gestured to the framed photos on his wall, 3 generations of Merit Construction projects that had shaped Seattle's skyline. My grandfather started with residential homes. My father expanded to commercial properties. I pushed into municipal infrastructure, each generation building on what came before. A legacy worth preserving, August noted. Yes, Broderick said quietly. It is. The 2 men regarded each other with newfound understanding. Finally, Broderick extended his hand. I'll need to review the detailed terms, but in principle, I'm interested. August accepted the handshake. I thought you might be. As he turned to leave, Broderick called after him. August, have you heard from Vivian? August paused. Not since she left Seattle. She's in Chicago, Broderick said. Starting over. She mentions you sometimes in her calls. The past is the past, Broderick. Is it? The older man challenged. You've destroyed your enemies. You've built something remarkable. You've even found a way to salvage what remains of Merit. But have you found peace? August considered the question honestly. I'm working on it. Good, Broderick nodded. That's the hardest project of all. The official announcement of the strategic alliance between Sterling Construction and Merit Construction generated significant industry buzz. Financial analysts praised the complementary strengths of the companies, while business publications featured profiles of August Blackwood's unconventional leadership style and strategic genius. Clayton Blackwell, stripped of his company and much of his fortune, left Seattle for a nominal consulting position with a firm in Dallas. Harrison Reed's trial for embezzlement and fraud continued, with each new revelation further damaging the reputations of all associated with him. Vivian remained in Chicago, gradually rebuilding a life far removed from her former ambitions. 6 months after the alliance began, August stood at the podium during the groundbreaking ceremony for Harbor Heights, the first joint project between Sterling and Merit. As he acknowledged the contributions of both teams, he caught sight of Roland Sterling watching with evident pride from the front row. Later, as they walked the perimeter of the massive construction site, Roland expressed his approval. This partnership with Merit was inspired. The market has responded even better than we projected. It made business sense, August replied. And it was the right thing to do. Roland smiled knowingly. The personal and the professional perfectly aligned. Speaking of which, Alexander Chen mentioned you've declined his dinner invitations 3 times this month. August raised an eyebrow. Are you monitoring my social calendar now? Merely observing that you've built an empire but neglected to build a life, Roland said gently. Revenge is consuming work, August. But it's completed now. What comes next? Before August could answer, his phone chimed with a notification. He checked it, then stared at the screen in surprise. What is it? Roland asked. An invitation, August replied. From Vivian. She's returning to Seattle next month for a charity event. She's asked if I would meet with her. Will you? August considered the question. I'm not sure. The past has a way of remaining present until we make peace with it, Roland observed. Sometimes the greatest act of power is forgiveness, not for their sake, but for your own. I'll take that under advisement, August said, pocketing his phone. In the meantime, we have a development empire to run. Roland clapped him on the shoulder. Indeed we do, and you've proven exceptionally good at it. As they continued their inspection, August found his thoughts drifting to Vivian's invitation. The anger that had fueled him for so long had gradually transformed into something else, not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps understanding. They had all made choices, all paid prices. Perhaps it was finally time to close that chapter completely. That evening, in the solitude of his penthouse overlooking the city he was helping to reshape, August composed a reply to Vivian's invitation. Yes. We should talk. Some stories deserve proper endings. Chapter 9, Ascension. The Emerald City Gala represented Seattle's most prestigious annual charitable event, a gathering of the region's business and social elite to support environmental conservation. August arrived precisely on time, navigating through clusters of familiar faces with polite but brief acknowledgments. His target was the West Terrace, where Vivian had suggested they meet before the formal dinner. He found her alone, gazing out at the Seattle skyline as sunset painted the buildings in amber and gold. She turned at his approach, and for a moment, he was struck by how familiar yet different she appeared, still elegant and composed, but with a quietness that had replaced her former calculated intensity. August, she greeted him, her voice soft. Thank you for coming. You look well, he observed, maintaining a respectful distance. Chicago agrees with me, she replied with a small smile. A fresh start was necessary. So I understand. Your father mentioned you're working with an architectural restoration foundation. She nodded. Historic preservation. It's meaningful work, saving beautiful things from destruction rather than always building new. Fitting, August acknowledged. And unexpected. People can surprise you, Vivian noted. Sometimes even themselves. A comfortable silence fell between them as they both looked out at the city. Finally, she spoke again. I followed your progress. The Sterling Merritt Alliance, the Blackwell acquisition, the Harbor Heights development. You've become exactly what I always believed you could be. With one significant difference, August added. Oh, I did it honestly. She accepted the implicit rebuke with a nod. Fair enough. I deserve that. Why did you want to see me, Vivian? We've both moved on with our lives. She turned to face him directly. Because some stories deserve proper endings. Your words, not mine. Our story ended with betrayal and revenge. I thought perhaps we might write a better epilogue. What did you have in mind? Closure, she said simply. Acknowledgement of wrongs done. Acceptance that the past can't be changed but needn't define the future. August studied her, trying to discern any hidden agenda. Finding none, he softened slightly. You've changed. Profound failure is an effective teacher, she admitted. Losing everything, wealth, status, reputation, clarifies what actually matters. And what matters to you now? Truth. Integrity. Rebuilding a life I don't have to hide behind manipulation and calculation. She met his gaze directly. I won't ask for forgiveness, August. What I did to you was unforgivable. But I want you to know that I understand now. The depth of the betrayal, the pain it caused. Unexpectedly moved by her sincerity, August found himself nodding. Thank you for that. Inside the ballroom, the event coordinator was signaling that dinner would begin soon. Vivian glanced toward the gathering crowd. Will you walk me in? She asked. One last public appearance together, this time without hidden agendas. August offered his arm. For closure. As they entered the ballroom, heads turned and whispers spread. The former power couple, now separated by divorce and scandal, Arriving together caused an immediate sensation. August felt Vivian tense beside him, then deliberately relax. The gossip mill will be working overtime, she murmured. Let them talk, August replied. It doesn't matter anymore. They parted at the dining area, each assigned to different tables. Before she left his side, Vivian squeezed his hand once. Be happy, August. You've earned it. The evening progressed with the usual speeches, awards, and fundraising appeals. August participated politely, but remained somewhat detached until Roland Sterling took the podium for an unscheduled announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, your generosity tonight has been remarkable, Roland began. However, I have one final request. Sterling Enterprises will match every dollar raised this evening, with one condition. The room quieted, intrigued. The Harbor Heights development includes plans for a 30-acre public park along the waterfront, Roland continued. I propose this park be named in honor of Seattle's greatest architectural visionaries, past, present, and future. The Merritt Sterling Park will stand as a testament to what we can build when we choose collaboration over competition, legacy over short-term gain. Applause erupted throughout the ballroom. August, caught by surprise, found himself the center of attention as Roland gestured toward him. Across the room, he caught Broderick Merritt's eye. The older man raised his glass in a silent toast that August returned with a nod of acknowledgement. Later, as the evening wound down, August found himself once again on the terrace, this time joined by Roland. You blindsided me with that announcement, August observed, though without rancor. Strategic surprise, Roland replied with a smile. A technique I learned from you. The Merritt name before Sterling, that was deliberate. Alphabetical, Roland claimed innocently. Though the symbolism wasn't lost on me. Some wounds need public healing. August shook his head, amused despite himself. And they call me the strategic genius. Speaking of strategy, Roland said, suddenly serious. Alexander Chin mentioned Triad Holdings is considering a major restructuring. They're looking for new leadership, someone with vision and a proven track record of innovation. And you think I'd be interested? I think you've accomplished everything you set out to do here, Roland replied carefully. You've built Sterling Construction into an industry leader. You've facilitated Merritt's recovery. You've effectively ended Blackwell as a competitor. The question is, what challenges remain that are worthy of your talents? August considered this. Are you suggesting I leave Seattle? Start over somewhere else? I'm suggesting you consider what truly fulfills you, Roland clarified. Is it building physical structures? Or is it the challenge of transformation itself, taking something struggling and making it exceptional? Before August could respond, his attention was caught by Vivian exiting the ballroom with a small group of Chicago associates. She glanced his way once, a look of quiet understanding passing between them before she disappeared into the night. I spoke with her earlier, August said, turning back to Roland. It was clarifying. How so? The anger that drove me for so long. It's gone, August realized. Not forgotten, but processed. Completed. Roland nodded approvingly. The most powerful revenge isn't destruction, but transcendence. Moving beyond what was done to you to create something better. Philosophical for a billionaire developer, August noted. I prefer wisely reflective, Roland countered with a smile. So what's next for August Blackwood? Seattle's conquered. The world awaits. August looked out at the city he had helped reshape, the Sterling construction projects visible in the skyline, the Merritt collaborations under development, the future park that would bear both names. He had arrived 3 years earlier as an ambitious outsider, been broken by betrayal, and rebuilt himself into something stronger and more authentic. I don't know yet, he admitted. But for the first time in years, the question feels liberating rather than threatening. Roland clapped him on the shoulder. That, my friend, is the true victory. Not over Blackwell or Merritt or even your past, but the freedom to choose your future on your own terms. 2 months later, August stood in his nearly empty penthouse, the last of his personal belongings packed for shipment. The view of Seattle remained spectacular, but soon it would belong to someone else. He had accepted Triad Holdings' offer to become their new CEO, with headquarters in Singapore and responsibility for their entire Asia-Pacific development portfolio. Cooper Reynolds leaned against the doorframe, watching his friend and mentor prepare to leave. So that's it. You're really going. New challenges, August confirmed. New beginnings. Sterling Construction won't be the same without you. It will be better, August countered. You're ready to lead it, Cooper. You have been for some time. Cooper shook his head. Following the August Blackwood era won't be easy. Then don't follow it, August advised. Create your own. That's what leadership means. A knock at the door interrupted them. August opened it to find Broderick Merritt standing there, looking somewhat uncomfortable. I heard you were leaving today, Broderick said by way of greeting. I thought, well, I should say goodbye properly. August invited him in, and the three men stood awkwardly for a moment before Broderick spoke again. I want you to know that what you've built here, what we've rebuilt together, it matters. The Sterling Merritt Alliance has become a model for the industry. It was the right solution, August replied simply. Yes, it was, Broderick agreed. More right than anything I'd done in years. He extended his hand. Thank you, August, for seeing beyond revenge to redemption. August accepted the handshake. Take care of the legacy, Broderick. It's worth preserving. After Broderick left, Cooper checked his watch. Cars waiting downstairs. Ready to go. August took one last look around the space that had witnessed his transformation from betrayed husband to industry leader. Yes, he said finally. I'm ready. As they descended in the elevator, Cooper asked the question August had been anticipating. Have you told Vivian you're leaving? Yes, August answered. We had dinner last week when she was in town. Cooper raised an eyebrow but didn't comment further. The truth was more complicated than August wanted to explain. His final conversation with Vivian had been neither reconciliation nor closure, but something more nuanced, an acknowledgement that people can change, that pain can transform rather than destroy, and that some connections, once formed, never completely dissolve regardless of circumstances. She wished me well, August said simply, and I did the same for her. The lobby was quiet as they crossed to the waiting car. Outside, Seattle's characteristic drizzle had given way to unexpected sunshine, a rarity worth appreciating. Perfect weather for new beginnings, Cooper observed as they loaded August's final bags. August looked up at the building that had been his home, then out at the city he had helped reshape. Every ending creates space for something new, he agreed. That's what I finally understand. As the car pulled away from the curb, August didn't look back. The revenge that had once consumed him had evolved into something far more valuable. The wisdom to recognize that true success wasn't about destroying one's enemies, but about building something they couldn't diminish. Not a victory through vengeance, but transcendence through creation. In Singapore, new challenges awaited. New possibilities. New opportunities to build something meaningful. The future stretched before him, unburdened by the past that had once defined him. August Blackwood smiled. It was time to begin again. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.